Good morning to all. Welcome to another section of this online class. So in this class we will be dealing with the 4th generation computer and the 5th generation computer from the paper Informatics, the module 1. So in the last class we discussed about the 2nd generation computer, 3rd generation computer, and also some major points regarding the 4th generation computer. So the 4th generation computers, the period between 1975 to 85 is regarded as the 4th generation computers period, and in this period the computer technology had advanced so rapidly that the computers could fit in the something in the size of a typewriter, and these were called the microcomputer. So the 4th generation computer produced or advanced some basic forms of computer like microcomputers, and the first microcomputer, which is the Altair 8800, it is the first microcomputer in this segment, and many people consider this Altair 8800 as the computer that sparked the modern computer revolution, especially since Bill Gates, Paul Allen founded the Microsoft with a programming language called Altair Basic, and made specifically for this specific computer, which is Altair 8800. So this is regarding the first form of microcomputer in this 4th generation computers. And then we discussed about some manufacturing companies or computer companies, which includes the Microsoft company, then the Apple company. They founded respective form of operating system, then the computers, and also the processor by Intel. So all these things comes under this 4th generation computer. And regarding this Microsoft, they developed the MS-DOS, which is the earliest form of this Microsoft Windows. Then regarding the Apple company, they developed the Mac OS, and which is also regarded as their first form of operating system. And the Apple 1 and Apple 2 are the first two computers developed by Apple company. And also the introduction to this keyboards and also the mouse by the Xerox, and it was developed in during the 1981, and it regarded as the first mouse during that time. And later the operating system and softwares were developed and advanced in order to fulfill the basic needs for the education field, scientific field, military field, and government sector. So all these sections or all these advancement comes under in this category, which is the 4th generation computer. So today we will be continuing the rest of these major topics, major points in this segment, which is the 4th generation computer. And we already discussed about the first truly portable computer, which is Osborne 1, which was released in 1981. And later the portable computers like IBM 5155, TRS-80 model 100 and 102. So all these models were advanced after the introduction or advancement of this first truly portable computer, which is Osborne 1. And later this development brings some major changes in this field of this computer technology. And also the supercomputers were sold to companies, universities, and the military. And an example for such supercomputer is Cray 1, which was released in 1976 by Cray Research. So it is regarded as the earliest form of supercomputers, and it was released in 1976. And also all the this generation was also important for the development of the embedded systems, and these are the special systems, usually very tiny, and they have computers inside to control their operation. And these embedded systems were put into things like cars, thermostats, microwave ovens, wristwatches, and more. So also these advancements bring many changes in the world itself. So these are the major points that we discussed in the last class. So today we will be continuing the next point of in this category, which is the 4th generation computer. And not at all the computers of all time were small, of course. There was still being supercomputers built with the aim of being as fast as possible. So here we are going to study about the introduction to the supercomputers. And the specialty of this supercomputers is that to bring some speed or fast as soon as possible to process the data or the programs. So this was the first intention to develop a supercomputers, and these supercomputers were sold to companies, universities and the military. And an example of such supercomputers is the Cray one, which is we discussed earlier, and later it became one of the best known and most successful supercomputers ever for its unique design and fast speed of 250 MFLOPS, which is regarded as the million or giga floating point operations per second. So it is just a measuring unit, MFLOPS, which means million or mega floating point operations per second. So this computer, specifically this supercomputer Cray one, which can fulfill all the processes with a speed of 250 MFLOPS, and later this computer gained many advancements and many development during that time. And this generation was also important for the development of embedded systems that we also discussed earlier, in which these are the special systems, usually very tiny. They have computer inside to control their operation, and the embedded systems are while compared to all the other computers are very small in size or tiny in size, and it can perform the much advanced processes with this small or tiny computer. And this embedded systems, examples for these embedded systems were put into things like cars, thermostats, microwave ovens, wristwatches, etc. So this is the last advancement in this stage in the fourth generation computer, which is the embedded system. So we discussed the two more major points regarding this fourth generation computer. They are the supercomputers and the embedded systems. So all these advancements comes under this category. Now we have some advantages and some disadvantages in this category. So we will move into the advantages section. So regarding the main advantages of this fourth generation computer, basically regarding the size, it is the smallest size because of high density of components in a single chip. So the components or the basic components or the hardwares used were very small, so that the size of the computers were reduced into a smaller size, and also these computers were more reliable. And the next point is that heat generator is negligible. So the generation of heat also controlled, and the air conditioning was not required in many cases. So the major drawback of the earliest forms of computers was to give some air condition to reduce this heating problem. So here we have much more advantage in this segment in which the air conditioning was not required in many cases, and also the processing of the time of the processing was much faster in computation. So the computation time reduced, or the computation time is more faster than the earliest forms of computers, and also the hardware failure is negligible, and hence the minimal maintenance cost. So here we have another major advantage in which the hardware failure was reduced, or it is negligible, in which the minimal maintenance cost was required for this type of computer. Then easily portable because of their small in size. So these computers were very easy to use, or easy to keep in hand, in which because of this they are small in size, and also all these computers comes under the general purpose. So in the fourth generation computers, all the computers or the advancement in this segment can be regarded as the totally general purpose. So the general purpose was the main aim of this advancement of these computers in this category. Then cheapest among all generations. So the cost or the production cost or the advancement for the further development in this segment was reduced, which means that the cheapest among the all generations. So we discussed from first generation to the fourth generation, and in this fourth generation the cheapest, all the computers we discussed earlier, the cheapest form comes under in this category. So these are the major disadvantages of this fourth generation computer, and we have some disadvantages too. The major disadvantage of this fourth generation computers is the highly sophisticated technology which is required for the manufacture of VLSI chips. So what is mean by the term VLSI chips? So it means very large scale integration. So we already discussed about the integrated circuit, which is IC chips in the third generation computer itself. The earliest forms of IC chips was introduced during that time, and here we have very large scale integration, which means VLSI chips were introduced, or the manufacturing cost or the manufacturing time or the all the advantages or all the advancement for this to develop this VLSI chips was very highly sophisticated, and it is regarded as the major disadvantages. So we have only one disadvantage in this category, which is the time or the manufacturing time which is required to develop this VLSI chips in this category. So these are the major advantages, and also we have the major disadvantage in this category of the fourth generation computer. So I repeat the advantage once again. So first of all, we discussed about the size, which is smaller in size while we compare to other generation computers. Then more reliable, and heat generated was negligible. Then air conditioning was not required, and much faster in computation. Then the hardware failure was reduced, and the maintenance cost also decreased. Then the portable, easily portable because of their small in size, and totally used for the general purpose, and the minimal labor cost involved at the assembly stage. It is also a very important point in which the labor cost to develop all these advance all these computers was reduced, or it is regarded as a minimal labor cost to assembly all these computers. So the assembling charge or the manufacturing cost was also reduced. Then the cheapest among the all generations. So these are the main advantages that we discussed today. Then the major disadvantages of this generation is that the manufacturing of this VLSI chips, which is regarded as the very large scale integration, the form of the IC chips, it is very costly or highly sophisticated technology. In order to develop it takes some time, so it is regarded as the major drawback or the major disadvantage of this category, which is the fourth generation computer. So we discussed the fourth generation computer. Now we are moving to the next category, which is the fifth generation computer. So the fifth generation computer, which comes from the 1985 to the present stage. So these computers in this category is regarded as the most advanced or the most successful computers of all the time, in which the major changes which introduced by some companies like processors company like Intel, AMD, and some manufacturing companies like IBM, and also the operating system like Microsoft, then Apple OS, Mac OS. All these advancement was come to its peak stage in this fifth generation computers. So this is regarding the just an introduction to the fifth generation computer. So the changes that have occurred since 1985 are plentiful, and computers have gotten thinner, more reliable, and many times faster computers are mostly built using the components from many different corporations. So mainly the size of the computers was decreased or got tinier and more reliable, and also the fastest or the introduction to the advancement in the fastest computers, where all this category comes under in this category, which is the fifth generation computer. So the major advancement is that the size was reduced and the reliability was increased, and also the fastest computers were developed during the fifth generation computer. Then for this reason, it is easier to focus on specific component advancement, and this specific component advancement, which is basically on the manufacturing of the processing units, and the companies like Intel and AMD means the advanced micro devices, are the main computer processor companies in the world today, and are more constant rivals. So they started developing all the earliest form of their processors during the period of 1985 onwards, and all these categories, all this advancement was very helpful for the advancement in this category. And the Intel and AMD, which is regarded as the most successful companies to produce the processors to the computers, and these computers are very popular, and also they are constant revivals too. Then these are the many different personal computer, and they usually sell their hardware with Microsoft Windows operating system pre-installed. So at that time also the computers were pre-installed with Microsoft Windows operating system with the help of these companies, and the processors were basically the Intel or the AMD. So it was the first form or the earliest form in which the computers were comes with a proper operating system, and also with a well sufficient processors from the companies like Intel and AMD. Then there are many different personal computers companies that usually sell their hardware with this operating system companies like MS Windows and also Apple computers. And Apple has a wide line of hardware and software as well. So Apple already developed their own softwares and their own hardwares in order to fulfill their needs, especially for the Mac OS or the Apple computers, which is the earliest forms of these Apple computers were Apple I and Apple II. So all these computers were developed in a such a sufficient manner, which sufficient amount of these softwares, and also they also developed the proper hardware for their computers. So this is regarding the advancement in the, especially in the advancement for the Apple computers. Then regarding the other details in this category, in which the computer graphics have gotten very powerful and are able to display full three-dimensional graphics at high resolution. So the major advancement in this category is that the computer graphics became more powerful, and it helped to display or to project the full three-dimensional graphics at the high resolution. So this was the major advancement during that time, in which the graphics, the computer graphics was more powerful and advanced, and it helped to display or to project the three-dimensional images or three-dimensional pictures or the such other things to project in the computers and the monitors. And this was the major advancement during that time, the advancement of this computer graphics. And NVIDIA and ATI, both these companies are regarded as the most powerful computer graphics companies, which developed their own specific forms of the graphics settings. So these are the two companies in constant battle with one another to be the computer graphics hardware king. So till now, all these companies like NVIDIA, ATI, and also the Intel companies, all these companies develop their own specific forms of the graphics in order to fulfill the basic needs of a personal computer or the other forms of computers and the devices like mobile phone and the other main advancement in this computer segment. So these are the major advancement during the 5th generation computer. Then the softwares also developed during this time, in which the software industry has grown a lot as well, offering the all kinds of programs for almost anything you can think of. So during the this age of this 5th generation computers, the softwares companies and softwares of all kinds of the programs were developed during this time, and Microsoft Windows still dominates the operating system scene. So during that time also, the Microsoft Windows has a clear edge or clear advantage over the all other operating system, especially the Mac OS and other free open source operating system during that time. So the Microsoft Windows gained much popularity during that time, and in 1995 Microsoft company released the Windows 95, which is a operating system that is regarded as a new level of dominance. So it was the first true form of operating system by the Microsoft company, in which the Microsoft Windows 95, which gained most popular during that time, and it also regarded as a new level of dominance during that time. And in 1999, Apple also developed a form of operating system which is regarded as the Mac OS X, which is the most earliest form of, or the most successful form of the operating system by Apple companies. And in 1991, Linus Torvalds wrote the Linux kernel that has since became the most countless open source operating system and open source software. So these are the major forms of, or a major advancement in the software category, in which the operating systems were developed or advanced into major different level of category. Especially the Microsoft Windows 95 was one of the most popular during that time. Then in 1999 the Apple companies introduced the Mac OS X, and also later in 1991 in that time the Linus Torvalds, who introduced the Linux kernel, which is the open source software operating system, and all these operating system became the earliest forms, or the most successful forms of the operating system in the 5th generation computer. So the Windows developed the Windows 95 in 1995, then the Mac OS X, which was developed by Apple companies in 1999, and the Linux operating system, which was developed from during the 1991 onwards. So all these categories comes under the software advancement in this 5th generation computers. Then computers have become more and more online oriented in modern times, especially with the development of the World Wide Web, which is regarded as the www. And popular companies like Google and Yahoo were started because of the internet. So the internet section, or the segment of this internet level was also developed during this time, especially the World Wide Web, and the popular companies like Google, Yahoo, and all other companies were developed during this 1995 onwards, the 5th generation onwards. So this is the major advancement in the computer companies, or the computer advancement during that time. So we discussed about the hardware, then the softwares, and also the computer graphics, and last we discussed about the advancement in the computers, which helped by the internet sources, especially the World Wide Web, which made a vast change in the forms of computers, and also the search engines, or the top level companies like Google, Yahoo. All these computers were advanced during this time. Then in this time, in 2008, the IBM Roadrunner was introduced as the fastest computer in the world at 1.026 PF-flops, which means the petaflops, which is the measuring units of this fastest measuring unit of this category. So this computer, which is the IBM Roadrunner, which was introduced in 2008, it is the speed, or the fastest, the calculating measuring unit of this speed of this computer was 1.026 p-flops, which means petaflops, and this computer is regarded as the fastest computer during this time, which is in 2008. And fast supercomputers aid in the production of movie special effects and the making of the computer animated movies. So from the 2008, the computer developed, or computers were advanced into another level of the segment, in which the fastest forms of computers, which measured in the petaflops category, and the IBM Roadrunner, which was released in 2008, it is regarded as the fastest computer in the world at that time. And these forms of fast supercomputers, it also resulted the production to the movie special effects, and also the making of computer animated movies during that time. So all this advancement, or the major forms of the advancement, comes in this 5th generation computers. So this is regarding the major points regarding the 5th generation computer. computers. And also we have another some minor point, which means the development in the field of artificial intelligence. It is also in the developing stage during this time, and it explored a new path in the field of computers, and the aim to develop an autonomous intelligent system that can be controlled by human beings, and the expert system in this generation can communicate with the people in their natural language. So this was another advancement in this category, fifth generation computer, in which the field of the artificial intelligence was explored or advanced during this time. And also some other inventions, like the invention of the magnetic bubble memories, which is a milestone in the memory research, and the robots with the self-computing capacity and the decision-making power are the ultimate aim of the fifth generation. So we have some more advancement in this category there, which comes under this artificial intelligence and based on the memory level, and the robots, which also regarded as the self-computing, which have the capacity to self-compute all the processes, and the decision-making power are the ultimate aim in this category. So it is also in the developing stage in this fifth generation computers, and the computer processor companies also developed during this time, and Linux kernel also introduced, and Linux, Ubuntu, and all the softwares or all the operating system developed from the fifth generation onwards till now, and the computers have become more and more reliable, and all which was based on the online oriented with the help of the companies like Google, Yahoo, etc., and the IBM Roadrunner was developed during this time. So all this advancement comes under this fifth generation computers. So we already discussed the fourth generation computers and the third generation, second generation, and the first generation computers. So from all these categories, the fifth generation computers has a specific form of speciality, in which all the form of advancement comes under in this category, in which the hardware was developed, the software was introduced, more advanced, then the computer graphics was which also processed in a very beautiful, very powerful manner. Then the internet based resources was also introduced. Then the artificial intelligence, the memory based advancement, which is basically a result of the forms of the robots, and all other advancement, and especially the development of the operating systems, softwares, all these advancement comes under only in this category. In all other generations, there was only one or two advancement particularly. For example, in the third generation computers, the IC chips was introduced. Then the fourth generation computers, the supercomputers and microcomputers were developed. So all these sections has its own limitations, but from the fifth generation computers, the computers or the development in the computers or the growth of the computers was very in a very positive manner, or in a straight manner, which resulted more advancement or more forms of developments in this category. So these are the major topics or the major points regarding the fifth generation computers. So we discussed the major 5 topics which comes under the evolution of computer or the history of computers, which included the introduction to history of computers, then the evolution of computer, which included the first generation to the fifth generation computers, and some advancement in this category. So all these categories comes under the first topic in the module 1. So we just completed the first topic in the module 1 of the informatics. Then we have 3 more sections in the category in this module 1, which is the general introduction to computers, and we have the types of computers, then we have the significance of information technology, and also the significance of internet. So these are the 3 topics that we have going to study in the following classes. So we just completed the first topic in the module 1 of this informatics, which is the history of computer development and also the evolution of computers and some advancement in the computer technology. So this is regarding the first part of this informatics class from the the module 1, especially the chapter General Introduction to Computers. Now we are going to just revise all the points that we discussed from the class 1 onwards. So we discussed about the history of computer development, and in the first class we discussed about the introduction to computers and the definition of informatics. Then the term computer, which comes from the word compute, which means to calculate. So it was the first form of computers in which to calculate the process or the to just do the mathematical calculation with the help of these computing devices. Then we discussed about the evolution of computers, and basically the early days from 1000 BC to 1940, which included the ancient civilization, and also the necessity of this invention of these computers. And in the ancient civilization, we discussed about the some basic countries. They developed the all these inventions, the earliest forms of the inventions, which include the geometry, rationality, symbol addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and such all other forms of mathematical calculations was developed by the respective people from the countries, which included the Greeks, Egyptians, Babylonians, Indians, and all these people from the different countries developed their own point of view, their own perspective on the mathematical calculations, and this development carried over to the advancement to like the astronomy, chemistry, and medicine. So these are the major advancement in the stage of the ancient civilization. Then we discussed about the Pascal, Leibniz, and Jacquard, in which the John Napier invented the logarithms. Then the slide rule, which was introduced by William Oughtred. Then the Pascaline, which was the first form of a calculator, which was introduced by the French mathematician. Then the after the Pascaline, we have the Leibniz wheel, which included the calculations was mostly advanced into different forms, in which the Pascaline was just to do the addition and subtraction, and in the with the help of this Leibniz wheel, it can do all the basic forms of calculations, which included the subtraction, multiplication, division, and with the help of this advancement in Leibniz wheel, later the Joseph Jacquard, who developed a loom, which to a device which satisfied the basic requirements, basically for the textile market. Then the major advancement in the next category was the this loom was worked with the help of these punch cards, and later the IBM, which introduced the idea of this punch cards, was later introduced by this IBM, which later developed as a large computer company. Then the in 1674, the German mathematician Gottfried Leibniz introduced this calculator, Leibniz wheel, and so these are the major advancement in this category. Then we discussed about the Charles Babbage, who introduced the difference engine in 1823, which is the largest and most sophisticated mechanical calculator of this time. Then regarding the difference engine, it can solve the divisions and the multiplication and all this process up to 6 digits, and then it was not at all actually completed because of the British government some issues regarding the project. And in later this advancement in this especially by the inventions of the Charles Babbage, was later completed by 1995, in which the 1991, in which the team of engineers, which in the Science Museum in London, completed the calculating section of this Babbage difference engine. And also in 2002, the difference engine number 2, which was also completed or created as a full-fledged model, which weighs 5 tons and has 8,000 parts. And also the analytical machine was also the major advancement or the major inventions by Charles Babbage. So this was regarding the major inventions by Charles Babbage. Then we have the Hermann Hollerith, who developed the advancement in the census based area, in which in US Bureau, Census Bureau, they held a competition, and the winner of this competition was Herman Hollerith, and he designed a built-in programmable card processing machine that would read, tally and sort data entered on punched cards. So it was mostly successful, in which this with the help of this advancement, the census was completed just 2 years. Then this company, or the Hollerith companies, was developed into a basic company, which is the Computer Tabulating Recording Company. Later it was changed the name into IBM in 1924. International Business Machine, which was introduced by Herman Hollerith. The Hollerith companies was changed just the name of this company into IBM. Then we discussed about the birth of computers, which included the World War II and the von Neumann segment. And the World War II, the Mark I was introduced, which was basically a base 2 binary system and system computer. And later the ENIAC was also developed in this segment, in the World War II category, and the US Army was building behind this development of this ENIAC in order to fulfill their requirements, basically the firing tables. And this electronic numerical interrogator and a calculator, which is the ENIAC, was completed in 1946 by J. Presper, Eckert and John Macaulay. So this ENIAC was the major advancement during that time. And later the von Neumann, who introduced the basics of the stored program concept, and this concept was later developed into the forms of the softwares and the operating systems. So these are the basics of this regarding the evolution of computers, or the early days of the computer advancement. Then we discussed about the generations of computers, which is from the first generation from the 1950 to 1957, in which the thermonic tubes or the vacuum tubes was used in this category. Then the second generation, which was from the 1957 to 1965, in which the transistor circuits were introduced, and also the high-level programming language like Fortran, COBOL, ALGOL was also introduced in this category. Then the IBM became the major computer company during this time, and it has also some advantages and disadvantages in this category. Then we discussed about the third generation computers, which is from the 1965 to 1975. The basic changes was the introduction to the integrated circuits, which is the IC chips, and it is made by the piece of silicon, and this was the major advancement in this category. And in this segment, which is the third generation period, the PDP-1, which is the first form of this first form of the mini computers, which is regarded as the PDP-1, was introduced during this time. And later in the category of this internet, the ARPANET was introduced. The Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, ARPANET, was introduced during this third generation of computers. Then we discussed about the fourth generation computers from 1975 to 1985, in which the microcomputers was introduced. The Altair 8800 was introduced during this time, and also the softwares was developed by the major companies like the Microsoft and the Apple OS. Then later the supercomputers was also developed. The Cray-1 was one of the first form of the supercomputers. Then the mouse was developed by the Xerox in 1981. So all these are the major points regarding the fourth generation computers. Then lastly we discussed about the fifth generation computers. So the period was the 1985 onwards to the till the present stage, and in this category all the advancements comes especially basically on the hardware segment, then the software segment, in which the hardware, especially the forms of the different levels of processors, was introduced. Then the softwares, regarding softwares, the MS Windows 95, then the Mac OS X by Apple companies, then the Linux. All these operating systems were developed during this age, and also the internet was also developed with the help of this World Wide Web, Google, Yahoo, etc. Then the computer graphics was introduced, and the most fastest computers was introduced in 2008, which is the IBM Roadrunner, which speeds up to 1.026 petaflops, which is regarded as the most fastest computer during that time. So these are the major advancement of the computers, or the major development of computers from the history of early stage of computers to the present stage of computers. So this is regarding the first major topic in the module 1. So in this class we discussed basically the 4th generation computers and the 5th generation computers, and we have completed the first segment. So in the following classes we discussed the second and third and also the fourth points of this module 1, which includes the types of computers and the advancement of significance of the information technology, and also the advancement in the internet. So all these topics we discussed in the following classes. So that's for today. Thank you. Happy learning.